everyone to our regular scheduled meeting. The mayor is under the weather tonight and won't be joining us. We wish him well. I'm going to ask Commissioner Clark, lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Approval of the agenda.
I make a motion we approve the agenda.
Second.
Heard a motion and second. All in favor? Approval of the agenda is passed. School recognition. Each month we have a teacher of the month and a student of the month. And this month, Zebulon Middle School would like to recognize Dylan Cadolis. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. And here's what the staff had to say about him. Dylan's was selected for recognition of being an overall outstanding student. He works hard and he engages in remote learning to maintain excellent grades and is respectful to staff members. Dylan is a role model for other students by standing out as a leader and volunteering for school-wide events. He has been a participant in the School Ambassadors Program, which provides school tours to prospective students and families. Dylan also participates in the Strings program. In the community, he enjoys acting in an improv group. He is also an active member of the Boy Scout Troop 524 and participates in local service projects. Congratulations, Dylan. For our teacher, we'd like to recognize Susan Legenbargen. She has been teaching for 17 years, with her last 2 at Zebulon Middle School as an 8th grade English language arts teacher. In these past 2 years, Mrs. Legenbarger has made tremendous impact on both the staff and students at Zebulon Middle School. Her roles as a member of the Curriculum and Instructional Alignment Committee of the School Improvement Team and the English Language Arts Department chairperson demonstrates her leadership abilities and her willingness to do whatever is asked of her. Mrs. Legenbarger is a hard worker, a great colleague, and a great teacher. However, it is not just what Mrs. Legenbarger does that sets her apart, is how she does it. Every day, Mrs. Legenbarger comes to school with a positive attitude, a big smile on her face. She makes her students feel welcome and valued, and they enjoy her classes because they see how much she cares about them and wants them to be successful. Mrs. Legenbarger helps to make Zebulon Middle School a great place to work and learn. Thank you. And they will get their certificates at a later date. Public comment?
We didn't have any.
Okay. Consent agenda.
I make a motion we approve the consent agenda.
Second.
So moved in second. All in favor? So moved. Finance.
All right. Thank you. Keith Joyce and Shelton Ennis from Joyce and Company here to present the audit for fiscal year ending June 30th, 2020. I just want to thank him and his staff for all their hard work and being so great to work with all these years. Y'all should have gotten a CAFR here in the last few days. Just pay special note to the management discussion analysis, which begins on page 15, and the statistical section begin on page 81. Some key highlights that Shelton might not mention, I don't think he's going to mention. Unrestricted fund balance is up about 15.6% or 1.3 million. Our fund balance percentage per our policy is 74%. You can refer to page 93 in table 10. That is the assessed valuation detail breakdown. Also on exhibit 3 on page 26, that's a breakdown of fund balance and all the portions of it. Basically the restricted sections are those that are restricted, how they can be spent, be it state statute, Powell bill money, and things like that. Transportation impact fees, another piece of that. The committed portions are portions that are designated into reserves for capital improvements and things such as that. That is done by board action, can be put in or taken out by board action. And the assigned portion, which is the amount of June 30th that was appropriated in the FY21 budget. So I hope it didn't steal his thunder. I'm here for any questions when he's done, and I'll turn it over to Shelton.
Thank you, Bobby. It's good to be with you. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem York and Commissioners. As Bobby mentioned, Keith Joyce, our managing partner, is here this evening with me. If you have any questions as I'm going through some of the audit highlights, I believe you have the CAFR, which is the 112-page comprehensive annual financial report. And I'll go over some of the numbers as well as some of the other items that are in the financial statements, as well as findings that are in the management letter. As of June 30th, 2020, the town received a clean, what we call an unmodified opinion on its financial statements. That they present fairly in all material respects the financial position and results of operations of the town through June 30th, 2020. The town has received a certificate of excellence in financial reporting from the Government Finance Officers Association for the past 26 years. It was awarded again for the fiscal year ending June 30th, 2019. And will be submitted for application for certificate for this fiscal year that we audited. I believe Bobby's submitting that in the next few days. That's a prestigious award, and it's not something that's given out lightly by the GFOA. As far as year end, I'll go over some of the balances and as well as cash balance and fund balances and assets. The cash balances at year end totaled $13,527,000. This was up about $1.7 million from the prior fiscal year end. Due primarily from operations, revenues over expenditures. The fixed assets of the town, which are equipment, roads, streets, sidewalks that the town owns, increased from about $30,400,000 to $800,000, about a $2.4 million increase over the prior year, due in large part to developer contributions related to sidewalks, streets, and as new neighborhoods and subdivisions are being built. The general fund is the town's main fund that houses the financial activity of the town and the various departments, public safety, general government, as well as streets maintenance and sanitation. The total fund balance for the general fund ended the year at about $12 million. That was up about $1.8 million from the prior year, due in part to higher collections of property taxes, which is the main source of revenue for the town, as well as higher permit fees due to the growth, the residential construction growth, and also lower capital outlay in fiscal year 2020 compared to 2019. The unassigned fund balance is the fund balance that's not reserved for any specific purpose, as Bobby mentioned, that's either restricted or committed or assigned. That increased about $490,000 over the prior year to end at $7,279,000. And again, the increase in general fund balance was about $1.8 million over the prior year. The water and sewer fund was closed in fiscal year 19 as a result of the final water sewer loan being repaid in fiscal year 18. There was just a transfer made to close out the fund in fiscal year 19. No activity since the fund was closed in fiscal year 20. The main source of revenue for the town, ad valorem taxes, property taxes. The tax collections increased over the prior year by about $543,000. This was about an 8.3% increase due in large part to residential growth. The valuations subject to tax, from which the collections are based upon, also increased by about $58 million. That's about 5.2%. The overall collection percentage of the property taxes that were assessed was 99.5% for fiscal year 20. That compares to 99.6%, so a very slight reduction from the prior year. That compares to an average of 99.16% statewide for towns similar in size to Zebulon. The long-term debt of the town, which is used to finance capital asset acquisitions, equipment, vehicles, that decreased by about $449,000 as a result of debt repayment and no new debt issued in fiscal year 20. I'll go through a couple of the letters that are required communications to those charged with governance to the board whenever there's an audit under governmental auditing standards. There should be a 2-page letter that I refer to as the governance letter, and this just states that the main estimate in the financial statements was the estimate of useful lives of long-lived assets like streets and infrastructure improvements, equipment, and vehicles. We encountered no difficulties during the audit in performing the audit, and we did not have any disagreements with management over accounting principles or application of accounting standards. And to our knowledge, management did not seek a second opinion of the audit itself. I'll move on, if there's no questions, I'll move on to the final letter that I believe you have a copy. It's single page. It's what we refer to as the management letter. During the course of the audit, we accumulate findings that potentially are issues with internal controls or areas that we see that may need improvement. These potential issues that we determine at the end of the audit whether or not they are significant, whether or not they should be reported in the financial statements in the compliance section as a material weakness or a significant deficiency. There were none that we identified that rose to those levels, which are higher levels. This is a suggestion that is not as severe as those. During our testing of capital assets, the town staff was unable to generate an accurate depreciation report from its software. Delays in attempting to resolve the issue with the software vendor resulted in town staff manually correcting the data that was exported from the software. We recommend that the town resolve the issue with the software to be able to produce accurate reports that can be relied on in accounting for depreciation and fixed asset additions and deletions. So again, that's the only item here that we have as far as our findings this year. I'd like to thank Bobby and his staff for their responsiveness and cooperation during the audit, and I'd be glad to answer any questions you may have.
Questions?
One quick question. How often do you encounter software issues with accounting departments?
I would say it's more frequent than not because software is so prevalent, technology is so prevalent now in financial reporting. And this particular issue is one that seems to be a true software issue that maybe some programming will allow for, or reprogramming would allow for the reporting to be accurate. So it's not uncommon.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor Pro Tem, members of the board. Tonight is the first of the first fiscal quarter reports from our efforts with the Chamber of Commerce in response to the Business Retention and Expansion Program. As you're aware, the Chamber is contracted to operate as a component of our Economic Development Committee. And tonight, Denise Now, who is the president of the Zebulon Chamber of Commerce, is here to present the first quarter report.
Thank you, Michael. Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and members of the board. I really just want to start by saying thank you for just all the kind thoughts and condolences about my older brother, and just the support from this community is pretty amazing, so I'm thankful for that. One of the things that we work really hard to do at the Chamber of Commerce as the liaison for economic development is to build relationships that drive commerce. So we're reporting out tonight on the retention efforts for the months of July, August, and September. All these numbers are moderate estimates. Some of the data is actually raw data. While it's hard to quantify results that are directly linked to every conversation that we have, we can guarantee that much of what's accomplished for the good of this community wouldn't be happening if we weren't having these conversations. So reflecting this year's contract based on our conversations earlier in the year, the Chamber's efforts for this year are divided into 4 categories: business visits, serving the business community, supporting economic development, and hosting our biannual Zebulon Next Economic Development Growth Conference. So we'll start with business visits. This past quarter, there were 29 engagements with formerly unaffiliated businesses in Zebulon. I'm wording this a little bit differently because visits is modified because of COVID, obviously. So we've done a lot of Zoom calls. We've done a lot of social distancing visits as we're able to. And so engagements with formerly unaffiliated businesses in Zebulon means how our businesses doing that have reached out to us because either they have questions. It's not always necessarily related to joining the chamber. Sometimes it is, but it may be related to how do I get permits? How do I get started? I'm started, but I don't know what to do next. So those are some conversations that were had this past quarter. Business openings, a lot of you were able to attend the Zebulon Pottery opening, and then 24/7 Fitness. They have opened under COVID restrictions and are doing a great job. They've just decided to hold off on doing their official ribbon cutting for a little while, and we understand that. 2 businesses have decided to pivot because of COVID. Land and Air and Tar River Teas. So just so you know a little bit about that, Land and Air owns a large building behind Design Dimensions. They're on, I believe that's Church and Horton? Church and Horton. Thank you. And at this time, they are actually able to work from another location, and they've decided that for them, it makes sense to lease out the building and be able to just reserve some of their finances instead of working out of that facility. So they're still around. The business is in good shape. They've actually done really well during COVID, but they've just felt like this was a good reason for them to make a change. Tar River Teas, he had just gotten started in February when COVID happened. He's done a good job of making sure that he's supplying as many of our businesses as possible with t-shirts, and then did some of the graduation signs and stuff for businesses that were recognizing high school and college students. He did feel, though, that sales were not high enough yet to support the overhead that he was incurring in that facility. So he's able to work out of a remote location. I believe he's working in his father or father-in-law's garage. And so hopefully he got all the proper permits for that, right? But he's able to at least stay in business, and we're thankful for that because he may not have the volume yet that he wants, but by staying in business and keeping his Facebook page up and things like that, it at least keeps him on the radar. We were able to have one brainstorming consultation. Innovation Custom Homes, they are using a portion of the space that was the former Theo Davis building. And they're doing a great job there. There are 2 other businesses that are in the facility. We've just had just introductory conversations with them, and they have a nice relationship with working for and with one another. But Innovation Custom Homes has been looking at doing some things that they definitely needed some permitting for, and they just definitely needed to have some conversations around how do we do this and do it well without getting ourselves into too much trouble. And that's part of why we're here, right? It's to have those conversations with people so that they can have them now and not get into a situation where they're like, I wish we'd have just had someone that we could have gone to and asked questions of before we launched in. So a couple of things that I think are noteworthy about this is the business climate. What I have found in either these conversations or these visits is that the business community is cautiously optimistic. There are businesses that have really struggled severely. There are a few businesses that have closed, but we are finding that there is just this cautious optimism, and there's definitely this desire to stay engaged and stay moving in their businesses. And then the takeaway that we've found from that is that staying connected has really been key. Not that we're the answer to everybody's business problem, but definitely having someone at the chamber to answer questions and be available when these businesses are going, how do we do this? It's been helpful. There aren't as many people right now that are needing to apply for different grants, but we're still trying our best to keep people engaged with that as well. And then next, serving the business community through our roundtable programs. In this past quarter, we kicked off our multicultural business roundtable. And so we've now had 9 attendees representing 5 different businesses. 2 of those businesses have actually started working with one another, and then a 3rd business has come in and said, I can help you with some of your social media and other things. So it's great. We love seeing those relationships built. 4 new business leaders have been added to our Emerging Business Roundtable, which brings us to a number of 16 members who are representing 10 different businesses. Planning meetings for our Succession Planning Roundtable. We have seen a need for some of our heritage businesses to have a plan for what do you do next, rather than just close the doors. Some of these businesses have children who are going to take over the businesses, some of them don't. So how are we able to come into that space and help them have conversations that are meaningful and give them the tools for taking the next steps? We're actually partnering with a bank and a consulting resource firm to help offset any expenses that it would be to businesses so that we can continue doing these roundtables and make it available to our businesses without extra cost to them. Supporting economic growth as a conduit. Tourism U, we invited you as commissioners and the business community to participate in a 30-minute presentation by the GRCVB that explains in basic 101 terms what tourism means to community. So this is just one piece of the puzzle, and it offers a way to help our businesses understand the impact of bringing people here from outside of Zebulon. That presentation included qualitative and quantitative data, and it also shared that the average Wake County resident saved $727 in taxes last year because visitors pay some of these items that residents are not required to pay. So this next slide is a little small, so you actually have a handout that's a little bit bigger. As a result of our invitation, one of our civic organizations, the Rotary Club, has participated, and then last week at our Wake County Economic Development Partners meeting, they reshared the GRCVB's, one of their other programs called Wish You Were Here campaign. And our planning director, Michael Clark, and one of our Zebulon Chamber Advisory Board members, Albert Alwang, were there to represent Zebulon. So what I feel like is noteworthy here is that the Greater Raleigh Convention and Visitors Bureau, they're actually going to be sending videographers to film all of our communities in Wake County, or municipalities in Wake County, for some promotional material. So as we seek to become more of a destination community, this will help tell the story that we're unified and working together for the good of Zebulon and all of Wake County. And then a little note that this happened just this last week. Visit Raleigh does a weekly update that they send out through an electronic newsletter, and they're including featured photos for all of our municipalities, and Zebulon was included in one of the collages that they put together. So you can find that by going to www.visitraleigh.com, or if you want the link, I can send that to you. And then another takeaway I feel like is important here is that Raleigh, it's important that we stay engaged with them because they're actually the ones that are able to help drive tourism. And as they're driving tourism, then a spillover or overflow of that is tourism comes to Zebulon. So we don't have to be the drivers for all of that, but we can definitely stay engaged with them so that we benefit from that. And then I think I just skipped a piece of what I wanted to share with you about this cycle of tourism with the GRCVB. And you know what? I think it's later here. So that's why I didn't share it earlier. There we are. So the piece that I wanted to share with you guys that's super great about this is that piece at the top, your right, in the 727. That is money that comes back to to residents that they don't have to pay in taxes because the GRCVB is able to tax people that are tourists for that. And then I just feel like that whole cycle of tourism is helpful for us because as we continue to see growth for Zebulon, we want to be engaged and we want to be able to send people to like some of our local farms and some of our local businesses and things like that. So that's another reason why I feel like I wanted to share some of that with you. And then another piece of the puzzle for where money is generated for helping us is the sales and use tax that's collected by the state. It's then returned to the county of origin and then distributed back to each municipality based on population. So usually in this setting, you would hear it referred to as the Article 39 tax. A portion of the Article 39 tax is how you actually fund the BRE and our town chamber agreement. An average of 1.6 to 1.7 billion was spent per month in Wake County last year. That's probably going to be different because of COVID. But for every $1,000 spent, our share is 0.2577, which is about 2.6 cents. So last year's collections were for Zebulon were $518,561. So as our population increases, we'll continue to see an increase in that Article 39 sales tax as well. So the takeaway from that is spend your money in Wake County whenever possible, and note that our partners in Wake County are working really hard to help grow tourism and tax dollars for the county. We also had 10 Wake County project inquiries. These came because of our partnership with the Wake County Economic Development Group. So when a project comes, so for example, a company says, we want to locate to America. Then they decide we want to be in North Carolina. And then they decide we like these 3 or 4 counties. And then they reach out to those specific counties. And so they'll reach out to our partners who are Wake County Economic Development. And from there, Wake County Economic Development will say, hey, we've got a project. This is what they're looking for. These are the parameters. And can you help us? So 10 of those came across our desk in this past quarter. And just because I think it's good to know like what's out there and what's being looked at. These are just some examples of those 10 projects that could have come to Zebulon. One industry was a major building and construction materials manufacturer that would have been bringing 400 to 550 jobs. Another one was a biologics company, and they were looking to bring about 250 jobs. Another one was an integrated pharmaceutical company, and they were looking at bringing 60 jobs. An indoor aquaculture operation, which means indoor raising fish for consumption, and they were looking at bringing about 85 jobs. An R&D manufacturing company, they were looking at bringing 26 jobs. And then there was also a PPE manufacturing facility, and they were looking at bringing in 200 to 400 jobs. So the net on those jobs that came across our desk this past quarter would have been 2,600 jobs from very diverse industries. And if we combined all of the capital investment that those projects would have brought, it was somewhere in the neighborhood of $344 million in capital investment. We wouldn't have qualified for all of them. No one municipality would qualify for all of them. But I just want you guys to know that those are the things that are out there. There are big projects out there, and the more we continue to grow our ability to respond to those, then the more opportunities that we have. So what are some of the things that they're looking for? Some of them are looking for land because they want to build. Some of them are looking for existing buildings, and they want to be able to move in quickly. Some of them are looking for a company that they can partner with, where they can be in part of the building and another person can be in another part of the building. I just think it's helpful for us to just talk through a little bit of what that looks like. And then there were 4 independent projects that came to us personally, so that didn't come through Wake County Economic Development or the Economic Development Partnership for EDPNC. I can't share the details of all of them, but one that I can share was Trago Partners. They wanted to be near others that were doing similar or complementary things. They found that Zebulon had one ideal location, and then there was another community that they were looking at. While the location here in Zebulon checked all the boxes for them, the quality and the price of the space in the other community, in their words, was too good to pass up. So they chose another community. This Trago Partners was an example of clustering. And what that means is there's a business who wants to be in a specific place because of who they can partner with. So our best example of that right now would be Nomeco. Cam Tool and Die came here specifically because they knew that they could supply Nomeco and then eventually Vinventions with some of the things that they have. Tethys wanted to be here because they wanted to be near some of that as well. So the nature of clustering is that these industries create a symbiotic relationship and they attract others that are doing similar things. Why I feel like this is noteworthy is because we have potential success stories. Trago considered Zebulon for available space because we had industries that they wanted to be close to and because we could make those connections for them. And then the takeaway is part of the reason that we lost them is like as we find that we miss out on potential projects, we just want to be more and more capable to have sites that are ready. So there's a term called site ready, and that means that if they're coming to build, then all they have to do is purchase the land and they're ready to put the shovels in the ground. Another example of this on a smaller scale is the Germanos. You guys have gotten to know Michael and Casey. They're purchasing a building to be part of the growth in downtown. But aging downtown buildings are sometimes a hindrance for our businesses. They're taking a risk because they believe in the future of our downtown. And where I think the noteworthy piece here is if we believe we want to continue attracting young families like this with a desire to make a difference, we'll need to continue conversations around providing incentives for infrastructure and upfitting buildings. And we'll also want to consider how do we hold business owners, property owners responsible for buildings that are vacant? I know that's been a concern for several of you and that we've talked about that. Buildings that start to fall into disrepair, they generally lower the curbside appeal for our downtown. And as that curbside appeal for our downtown stays or lowers, then large industries that are considering coming here drive through the downtown and go, not sure I want my employees there. So I just think that we're doing a good job of having these conversations. I think we just need to continue and make sure that that's something that we work on really hard. And then a piece that I think will be helpful for this board is at your December 16 work session, you'll hear from Michael Clark about site readiness and how that actually can improve how we're viewed as a community in terms of being ready for these kinds of projects. And then one of the other things that we are focused on for this year because of our agreement for the BRE is how to host our Zebulon Next Economic Growth Conference. We're giving thoughtful consideration for how to safely host that in 2021. One of the things that we're already working on is comparing notes with fellow chambers to see what are they doing. Some of it is impacted by the size of our chamber and the size of our organization and the infrastructure and bandwidth that we have. But we're looking at that, and thankfully there are things like Zoom that can make things like this possible. So in conclusion, I just want to share that the strength of our business community, again, is thoughtfully hopeful, looking forward. We have 2 new chamber board members that will be joining us this next month. We have ongoing hotel conversations. I think I shared with you a few months ago that there's a hotelier that's interested. Your next report will include results of an economic impact study that we've done in conjunction with the North Carolina Department of Commerce. And then also I just want to share that serving this board over the last 5.5 years has been a pleasure. You guys know that my position has been posted. Our executive and advisory board of directors have created a selection committee. And for now, it's business as usual at the chamber. We will find the next candidate, and I'll be around to make sure that they learn all the things that they need to learn. And we just love to say it around here. We work hard to build relationships that drive commerce. So I'll take any questions.
Thank you for all you do.
I'm very grateful for all that this board has done, both the board that I got to know when I first got here and then the board as it's changed and grown, and look forward to seeing where the next steps take us. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem and other members of the board. The mayor has shared with me there's some interest in the board revisiting the charter amendment from 2018. And so I thought it would be helpful to provide some information about the charter, what it means for municipalities, the charter amendment process in general, as well as the charter amendment process that's gone on with Zebulon since the modernization of the charter back in 1973. As well as provide some background from the 2018 charter amendment. And again, this is just information for you all to take under advisement as you consider what your next options are. So the first thing, let me explain a little bit about how the state of North Carolina oversees their local governments. They follow what's called the Dillon Rule. And there's two models to follow across the country. There's the Dillon Rule model, and then there's the Home Rule model. States that follow the Home Rule model, municipalities in those states, they can adopt any rule that they want to as long as it's not against the law. In a Dillon Rule state, which is what North Carolina is, they can only do what the state of North Carolina expressly tells them they can. So that is the reason for the charter. A charter is what creates a town. A charter gives the town, its powers, lays out its boundaries, its ability to expand those boundaries, defines the governing board composition and the election procedure, as well as the administrative organization of the town. So that's the purpose of the charter. Towns exist because the General Assembly creates them, and they create them through their charter. When towns want to amend their charter, they have to go before their local delegations. The local delegation is their local representatives of the North Carolina House of Representatives, as well as the North Carolina Senate. So whenever they wish to amend their charter, they approach that local delegation, ask them to place a charter amendment on the floor of the General Assembly so the whole General Assembly can vote on it. And Zebulon has done this. Going back to 1973, that's probably the best jumping off point. I'm sure there was charter amendments before here, but in my research, 1973 was probably the most significant point to start because it represented a modernization of the original charter that was put in place, would have been put in place in 1907. And the subsequent charter amendments really do reflect a modernization of what Zebulon and towns in general have to go through. So going back to the 80s, as I knew this would happen, going back to 1989, sections were added to the charter as the town was growing to put in specifications about overseeing site plan approvals. In 2004, they came across some situations where there was vacancy on the Board of Commissioners, and so much like charters do as far as assigning powers to the governing board and the composition and the election procedure, that charter needed to be revisited to address a new concern or a new issue that had emerged. 2015 was creating of the Capital Reserve Fund. So as an example, you have a transportation impact fee that you charge to developments. That's something that you can only charge per the General Assembly. So the town of Zebulon went before the General Assembly and got authority to do that. And I'm glad to say to report, as your auditors reported, that fund is looking healthier and healthier as you take on more transportation projects. The charter amendment in 2018, that had to do with changing how the town clerk was appointed and evaluated. And where that came from was it was a result of an initiative to address what had historically been a fragmented administration of human resource support within the town. The human resource director / town clerk and the human resource analyst / deputy town clerk positions were created to dedicate more resources to human resource support. Given that the amount of oversight those positions would require of the town manager, the charter amendment modifying the appointment and the evaluation of the town clerk duties was brought before the town commissioners, and the town commissioners subsequently went before, well, actually they held a public hearing to get feedback on it, and then they subsequently went to their local delegation to have that charter amendment placed on the floor of the General Assembly, and the General Assembly then modified that charter amendment. Then and only then was those positions budgeted, and then subsequently after they were budgeted, they were filled. So this is an information staff report, so there is no staff recommendation. Also, there's no policy or fiscal analysis, but we stand ready to answer any questions that the board may have.
Questions? We have none.
Okay, thank you.
You all recall before Thanksgiving at the work session, we came and presented the health, or the insurance proposal for the 2021 year, that being on a calendar year basis. We have John and Paul from IBA, our new consultants, were here last month. John is here tonight. We just wanted to kind of follow up on the presentation from the work session with a little additional details and maybe some extra context that might help. As far as the process goes, just a review sort of, we talked about this at the work session. We sent out a request for proposal back in August. It was due back in September. After review of those by Lisa and I, we chose IBA. Kind of got the ball rolling with them in October, early October. Got them up to speed on our current benefits, just kind of got acquainted and everything. Got the agent of record changed to them from our previous broker. And then we started working on, they started working on the renewal quotes from our current providers. Once we got those back, they had a 6% increase, you'll recall. They negotiated that down to 0 increase on the health. And then we're proposing switching the dental to Delta Dental from United Healthcare. That's a slight decrease, just minimal. Just some rationale for our recommendation. It was not just a financial decision in our recommendation to y'all. We have a wellness program. We're just now getting off the ground and getting it rolling. That's kind of come into play. We have a current goal to improve all employees' health, which should in turn lower premiums. We hope to grow that program in the coming years. We're also looking at recruitment and retention. And these benefits can help us attract people and keep them. Adding the vision insurance as a paid benefits, one of those things. Increasing the life insurance is another one. We were kind of behind the curve on that. I'm going to turn it over to Lisa. If you have any questions, let us know. She's going to kind of discuss on how we're going to move in the future, how this might come before you each year, timeline on it. And again, John is here for any questions also.
Good evening. The future, what we're going to look at is trying to make sure that we bring this to the board sooner so that the board has more time to review. The soonest we could possibly bring it would be a November meeting, probably a work session, just because it takes time to get the information from the insurance companies and negotiating to keep our prices at, good rates, or if they are not good, then bidding them out again. So, but that is our goal for the future. Part of the process that we've done here that really isn't a future piece, but this whole process that we're doing feeds into our strategic plan of growing smart. So we're trying to make sure we use our funds well by having a consultant and a partner that will work on the town's behalf to get us better rates and to get us better benefits. And that's the whole goal of what we do. And one of the things that we're trying to do in the future is to stay with an insurance company as long as we can, so that our rates are better. We create a partnership with them, and also to get better benefits for our employees. And that's the goal of what we're doing in this process. John and Bobby and I are here if you have questions for us. So if you have questions, we're ready.
Questions?
If there's no questions, then what we're asking is that you make a motion to approve what is being presented by staff, which would be United Healthcare for health insurance, Delta Dental for dental insurance, Superior for vision insurance that the town would pay for, and then to increase our life and accidental death and dismemberment to be one time the employee's annual salary.
I make a motion to approve the staff's recommendation for insurance.
We have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion?
So Superior Vision was the lowest that has enhanced benefits, but staff is asking us to use $6,000 of town funds to pay for the vision plan. I was not given any information, even though I asked for it, about how many people were currently using the vision plan, and I find this to be problematic for us to be voting to confirm a vision plan that may or may not be utilized by the members of our town, and staff and employees. So I am not sure that including the Superior Vision as something that the town is going to pay for is in the town's best interest right now financially without those numbers.
I would say about 60% of employees do the voluntary vision currently. One of the benefits that one of the pluses to that is what we're going to promote. You know, we have many employees driving town-owned vehicles. Being as, if we were to provide employer-paid vision, then definitely encourage them to get annual eye exams.
If they're paying for their vision anyway, if 60% are paying for vision anyway, they would probably be getting those eye exams? Or are you talking about the 40% that are not currently utilizing the vision plan?
Yeah, 40% are not. Yeah.
And as far as retaining good employees, I feel like we're in an environment where that seems like we've got good employees. I want them to stay, but increasing what we have to pay out in life and accidental death and dismemberment insurance might not be what we need to do right now. Thanks, Bobby.
I would say, like I said, we're kind of behind the curve in that. I think John said we're one of their only municipalities that does not do the one-time salary benefit.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, a couple comments or thoughts, and this is kind of for the board. This is a really, really good plan, especially compared to state employees. Also, I don't like giving greater benefits, not knowing I can keep them in place in the future, because then sometimes the employees take that as a reduction. And one thing that's becoming very common in businesses is they're getting out of the insurance business and giving employees X number of dollars per year, and then it's really upon them to shop for a deal and, most importantly, stay healthy. You know, keep their body mass index down, et cetera, so they can get a good policy. So it's not that I don't want the employees to have this. It is a fantastic plan, but it does add, what, roughly $20,000 to the budget, even though we approved $22,000 in the current funding cycle?
For vision, you mean?
No, for the total package, because as I'm reading this correctly, the health stays the same. There was no increase whatsoever. Vision is a $6,000 increase to the town because we're taking on the burden rather than the employee. And then the life, accidental death, and dismemberment insurance, we're picking that up now for another $3,100 per year. So that's $9,000 increase out of the 22.
Right, correct. Yeah, we
And
budgeted
then,
22. Yeah.
and then we are also paying the people that went out to IBA. And what are we paying them as opposed to how much they have saved the town?
You mean like commission?
Yep.
Yeah, well, they're getting the same commission that, in groups of smaller than 100, correct? Groups smaller than 100, the commission is kind of baked into the rates, no matter if IBA is the consultant or broker or ABC insurance across the street.
So we're seeing no increase by using this broker as opposed to the broker that we had last year?
Correct.
Okay.
It may be even less.
And why would that be?
Because they do the PEPM, their commission, whereas others, I'm not sure, our previous one, if they did a percentage, or I'm assuming it was a percentage. Don't know that for sure. Whereas that could go up. If the premiums go up, their commission goes up, whereas with the PEPM, it does not go up.
So am I to understand that the more insurance we purchase, the more commission they make? So it's in there? No, that's not true? So can I have an understanding of that? Yeah.
Yes. Good evening. Previously, when your broker got a 5% commission on whatever the premium was. So if you got a 10% increase in the subsequent year, they would get a 10% increase on their 5%.
Okay.
When you do a per employee per month, the acronym was PEPM, You base it on the total employees you have in the plan.
Okay,
So if you have 70 people on the plan, you get a PEPM this year. And then next year, if you have 65, well, the commission is a little bit less because you have less than 70 people. But if you have more, then the philosophy is that if you have more employees, then we have to do more work also. But we cut the commission by the percentage forever.
okay.
And may I say one more thing about the vision plan? One thing with the health plan, there is no eye exams with your health plan. Unfortunately, health insurance carriers a while back deleted it from their health insurance. The vision plan offers an eye exam for everybody that's covered, and it's a benefit, I think, that especially if you're covering your children, it's a great benefit for dependents that probably really need to go and see their vision care provider to get their eye exam. And it's one of the first tests that you can have to try to look at and see if you have diagnosed for diabetes.
Yeah, I have a question for the broker, too. Are you seeing any movement in the insurance industry where I know they like to look at a year's experience and then look at what the medical expenses are to set rates? Is anybody doing anything with multi-year agreements?
Yeah, it's a great question. North Carolina Department of Insurance has basically has set a regulation that under a fully insured plan like you have, you cannot have multiple year rate guarantees anymore. About 15, 20 years ago, they used to have 2 or 3 year rate guarantees by insurance companies, and that's when we had a lot of the HMOs in the industry and the point of services, and they eventually went bankrupt, and because they basically bought the business. So unfortunately, they will not give you multiple year rate guarantees. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Any more questions? Okay, we have a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Need to vote on the motion? All in favor? Opposed? Motion passes 3-2.
All right, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the board. Unfortunately, tonight I come before you asking for some emergency repair funds. In mid-October, we had a delivery truck delivering supplies and goods to a house renovation on the corner of West Lee Street and North Arundel Street, back over our existing storm drain and collapse it. This collapse was due in part to improper installation and improper cover. Typically on a corrugated metal pipe of this size, you have 12 inches of cover on it. This pipe, when we got there, had approximately 6 inches of cover. So the pipe was installed improperly and did not have proper support. Tonight, we have 2 options in front of you. The first option is to do what we're calling a stopgap measure. This process is not recommended by staff or the engineer. Couple of the cons on that: it does not handle hydraulically the work, the flow downstream. Overall, the infrastructure, it doesn't address the infrastructure in the area. It has poor condition, and the long-term cost of this project is higher. Both of these options we are presenting you tonight do include an overlay of that section that we had to leave out of our paving project. The second option we are prepared for you tonight is a permanent repair, which is recommended. We feel like the permanent repair handles the hydraulic model properly, so there will not be any backups. It addresses maintenance in the area, and a nuisance area where we've had some flooding. We've also had some clogged storm drainage due to root intrusion. It standardizes the pipe size, and it long-term is less expensive. And then there's fewer projects that the staff to maintain with too. So, one good news I can share with you, our storm drainage project on West Vance Street is ahead of schedule, and we are projecting to bring that project in under $15,000. The cost for option number 1 is $95,000. The cost for option 2 is $150,000, and staff is recommending option 2, consistent with our engineer. So tonight we ask you to approve option number 2 and ordinance 2021-48B. If you have any questions, we'd be glad to answer them.
How did you arrive at the estimated construction costs for both options?
We work closely with the engineer, reviewing existing bid averages and then our preliminary design, done by the engineer and staff.
Well, I would rather do this once and do it right than have to do it again. But I am going to recommend going with option 2 at $148,300 because I don't see any reason to, since it's not built in there, to include the extra $1,700 that the budget amount, the recommended budget amount is at. So I would like to make a motion to approve option 2 at $148,300.
Second.
Discussion?
Can you include your ordinance number in your motion, please?
Yes. I'd like to make a motion to approve ordinance 2021-48B, option 2, for a total of $148,300.
Are you still second, Commissioner Lux? Okay.
Second.
All in favor? Motion passes.
Thank you, guys.
Good evening, Mayor Pro Tem, members of the board. This is our meeting calendar for 2021. This includes our regular meetings, our work sessions, budget meetings, and retreat. Regular meetings and work sessions are held at 7 p.m. unless otherwise stated, and staff is proposing that no work session be held in February due to the 2-day retreat, and that there will be no meetings in the month of July unless necessary due to a joint public hearing in June.
I make a motion, we approve the 2021 regular meeting and work session meetings.
I second.
Discussion?
I'd like to entertain the idea that the work sessions be scheduled at 6 p.m. so we can get out of here a little bit earlier rather than 7. And then also entertain the thought or idea that we schedule a July meeting so it's on the calendar, but not the first Monday. I'm thinking the second Monday, which would be July 12th, with the understanding it could be canceled if we don't have any work.
I don't agree with you on the July meeting. I think the staff needs that month. They need to be able to schedule what they want to do because they have worked so hard on the budget. So I don't agree with them.
Yeah, I think our work continues every month of the year.
I understand it does, but I think we take care of it.
Yeah, and it could, like I said, it's scheduled, it can be canceled if there is no work. Because once again, we're going into kind of another uncharted year, not knowing what's going to happen pandemic-wise, budget-wise, project-wise, et cetera. And I'm just saying, it would be nice if it were on the schedule, on the calendar.
I feel like we could have used it this year for sure. But we could use that July meeting.
And I don't want it that first Monday because it's near July 4th. That's ridiculous. So
Agreed.
just a comment and consideration for the board.
Well, I'm open to consider that, and I don't mind doing the work sessions at 6. Does anybody else have a problem with 6 p.m. for the work sessions?
What day you said?
For the work sessions?
Work session.
The Wednesdays instead of,
How does that work how does staff feel about 6 o'clock? How does that work for them?
6 o'clock would be
Okay.
better.
I think that,
Okay.
yeah, probably be better than hanging around.
If the board let me just, as a point of clarification, if the board wants to add a date or change the time, then the commissioner who made the motion and the commissioner who seconded that motion need to revisit that. So that's just clarification.
Yep.
As far as 6 o'clock, I think we can adapt. I think one thing that I will offer for the board to consider is you don't have to make that call either at the 6 o'clock, on the 6 o'clock timeframe, or the July meeting now. You can, as you get deeper into the year, you can go ahead and call for a different time or a meeting in July. So you don't have to make that decision tonight. But we can adapt to answer the question.
So I guess based upon the motion, we're only approving these dates, no times.
No times. Well, we can, yeah, if we can change it we can make, we can make our work session at 6 if that's,
You are, it's under the assumption that you are adopting 7 o'clock. What I was saying is if you don't want to change the times now, you don't have to. You can do that. I get your next regular meeting. You can say for the March meeting, the March work session, we want to do that one at 6. Or at that meeting, you can also say we want to add a July meeting. But the implication here is that for this schedule, the time is 7 o'clock because that's traditionally when you've had it. If you want to adopt a different time, you've got to explicitly state that.
I can amend my motion to make work session at 6 o'clock.
There needs to be, whoever made the second needs to second that if they agree.
Second.
Who made the second?
Shannon,
second
you
it.
made the second.
Okay, second.
Okay. With the 6 p.m. start time?
With a 6 p.m. start time.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Motion passed.
Okay. We currently have one vacancy on the Board of Adjustment. It's an alternate in-town vacancy with a 3-year term expiring on June 30th, 2023. We've received a application from Damon Danfee. If you remember, he came before you at the November meeting and expressed his interest in serving on the appointed board.
He's not here this evening, is he?
He is not.
Okay.
I make a motion, we appoint Damon Danby to the board.
Second?
Second. I can do that.
Discussion? All in favor? Motion passes. Board comments. start with Commissioner Baxter.
All right. I have two. Well, yeah, two. The first is when Zebulon Printing moved their location, they entrusted into my care quite a bit of their overflow paper. And if there are any teachers out there in Z-Town that would like to get their hands on some of this, I will be willing to pass this along. I have probably 20 reams, so if you want to reach out to me and let me know, I will be happy to share this to any art teachers or anyone really who is interested in that. In addition, we have the toy drop-off, and you can bring any unused, new, unwrapped toys to several different locations throughout Zebulon, the police station being one of them, and I believe Walmart is yet another. So if you would like to make sure that some of the children in our community get some wonderful gifts for the holiday season, you can drop them off at those locations during business hours. Thank you.
Okay. I want to say that the farmer's market, or as they call it, the pop-up market on Saturday was wonderful. It was set up in the new alley. It had plenty of space, lots of nice vendors. Of course, you know I'm a big fan of the farmer's market, so I just thought it was wonderful. They did a great job, great job. And they're doing a good job with all the activities they have scheduled, a lot of them virtual, but it's really great.
Agreed.
Commissioner
I
Moore.
was glad we got a new chief.
I'd like to thank the board for the last year of working together, as well as the town staff and town attorney. It's been a challenging, interesting year. It was the first year for a couple of us in the middle of COVID-19 and a bunch of unknowns, and people have pivoted and acted quite quickly. And kudos to the financial staff for getting your award again. That is not taken lightly, and that does take hard work day after day for that to happen. So thank you all, and Merry Christmas.
And I'd just like to piggyback on what you said about the finance department. That's a job that is definitely not taken lightly as far as finances are concerned. We'd just like to thank the staff and for all their hard work and work that goes into that. I also like to thank Denise Nowell, our outgoing Chamber of Commerce CEO, and it's been a pleasure. And I think this is like running a race with a marathon, and this is just the first leg, and she's done a great job with that and passing the baton on to whoever comes in, so that we will improve and increase and make this town a better economic place for businesses. That's all I have.
Okay. Thank you. You've got a couple of meetings coming up for the viewing audience. I wanted to provide a little bit of detail. So on next Monday, you will have a joint public hearing. The two notable items on that is your UDO will get a little bit of a workout. You'll have a conditional zoning come before you. That's for property located off of Green Pace Road. And so you'll get to hear what their proposals are as far as latitude that they're requesting, as far as what they're upping in their development proposal. Also, the joint public hearing, you'll get an interim revision to your transportation plan. Again, until we get the transportation plan completely updated, we're staying ahead of development. So you'll see an interim revision to the transportation plan to show the connection of Innovation Way with East Gannon, which is going to provide a second access point to the industrial park. And then the next Wednesday, which is moved up because of the holiday schedule, You've got a work session. We'll bring to you, speaking of the comprehensive transportation and land use plan, we'll bring to you the completion of Phase 1, which is the assessment of where things stand, and kick off with Phase 2, which is the things that need to be fixed or addressed from both a land use and a transportation standpoint. You'll also hear you were awarded, Zebulon was awarded membership into the North Carolina Main Street program as a downtown associate community. They will join 60-plus communities that are already in this program. They're in the class of 2020. So you'll hear more about that program as we officially get rolled in with that group on January 6th, their kickoff meeting. In advance of that meeting, we've been having downtown conversations with downtown businesses and property owners to get some input that we can fold into the North Carolina Main Street program as we matriculate into full membership of the Main Street program. But we'll also bring you back some things that you can act upon that we heard from those meetings and actually have heard before those meetings. Some things being text amendments regarding the maintenance responsibility of existing property owners on existing buildings downtown. We're going to bring you a revised streetscape match grant policy. Right now, that's geared more towards nonprofits. We're going to open that up and get your consideration to broaden that to include private businesses as well as increase the award amounts. And then, as was mentioned in Ms. Now's report, some of the infrastructure, specifically with buildings, has gone a little bit too long, and in order to incentivize the private sector, we're going to bring you a tool to start discussing how to incentivize the private sector through what we're calling right now the Infrastructure Investment Grant Program. So we'll use that work session to keep you abreast of that, as well as get some information from you before you actually bring it forward to the community for adoption. So as Ms. Moore said, yes, we have a new police chief, and we are thrilled. Tonight was supposed to be a ceremonial swearing in, but as with everything related to COVID, we've had to adapt and pivot. We've been limited in our numbers to 10, and we all have had to wear masks, and staff is very happy because they had to wear masks all day long. So, we still want to recognize our new chief and give you and the community an opportunity to at least meet her. So I'll do a real quick intro and then turn it over to her. The town of Zebulon, and I've shared this before, is proud to announce the selection of Knightdale Police Captain Jackie Boykin to serve as Zebulon's newest police chief. Chief Boykin served Knightdale Support Services Commander for the last 6 years. She previously served 18 years with the Wilson Police Department, where she held numerous titles and positions during her time. Boykin has also served on the County Planning Board as an advocate for citizens with developmental disabilities. She's earned a bachelor's degree in criminal justice from East Carolina University and a master's degree in public administration from the North Carolina State University. Boykin is also a graduate of the 264th session of the FBI National Academy. And with that, please join me in welcoming our new police chief, Jackie Boykin.
Thank you. I've been really excited to finally get the chance to come in and meet each of you, and I'm going to take just a few short minutes to tell you a little bit about myself, and then I look forward to being able to share a little bit more as we move forward. So, Mr. Pro Tem and members of the board, some 200 years ago, Sir Robert Peel, the founder of modern-day policing, proclaimed, "Police at all times should maintain a relationship with the public that gives reality to the historic tradition that the police are the public and the public are the police. The police being only members of the public who are paid to give full-time attention to the duties which are incumbent upon every citizen in the interest of community welfare and existence." That statement embodies my pillar beliefs about the law enforcement profession. We're entrusted by our community members to represent them and carry out public safety. That means we must hold ourselves accountable to the people who live and work in Zebulon. The members of the Zebulon Police Department are committed to providing the highest level of police service. Members strive to improve the quality of life through building relationships that reduce crime, maintain order, and enhance police-citizen relationships. We do this by being responsible to our core values: integrity, honesty, service, and fairness. The town's mission and values mirror those of the police department. And though several of you have helped to build that framework, I hope you'll give me a second just to recite them. Zebulon is committed to enhancing the quality of life for our residents, delivering excellent, friendly services, and fostering collaboration within our city. The values that guide how we effectively serve the community are honesty and integrity, family, respect, dependability, and teamwork. Reflecting upon those missions and values, I'll share with you my 5 basic expectations for service. If, as an agency, we live by these 5 rules, we might not always get it right, but we can revel in a level of service that we provide to our fellow humans and the level of career satisfaction we can enjoy ourselves. Number 1, stay mission-minded. Our goal is to improve the quality of life through partnerships. 2, maintain an unwavering allegiance to our core values. 3, honor the law enforcement oath and everything it stands for. As a police officer, this is the most significant promise we will make in our lives. Tell the truth, 100% of the time, all the time, and give your very best effort every day. I will do that for the men and women of the Zebulon Police Department and for the members of our community, and I would expect the same of them. I'm really looking forward to developing relationships within the community. I'm looking forward to working with each of you and looking forward to getting to know more of the people who live in Zebulon. And I'm happy to entertain any questions. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem, that concludes my report.
Thank you. We have closed session that's permitted for the purpose of personnel discussions. Do we have a motion to go into closed session?
I move to go into closed session as permitted by NCGS 143-318.11A6 for the purpose of personnel discussions.
Second.
All in favor?
Commissioner Moore.
So be it. Let's take about a 5-minute break, please.
Okay.